Hey everyone, welcome back. BetSperts Golf here for the 123rd edition of the United States Open, coming off of a fantastic Open with our neighbors to the north and back with power and internet after a brief hiatus last week. It's my friend Andy Molitor. Andy, what's going on?
It's kind of a nice break. I just get to sit there and watch you guys talk on my phone. I thought about joining from my phone, but that's just such a pain.
I've been there.
At that point, I'm like, fuck it, I give up. You guys can talk Canada. Although my outrights that I chose did well, not well enough. I mean, all of them were in contention at some point. Between Saturday and Sunday, every single outright I gave out was in second place at some point. Just wasn't meant to be. Obviously, amazing finish. We won't rehash Hadwin Gate too much because we have a lot to talk about today, but it's still just the funniest thing was the video that should have been taking over my timeline was somebody making a crazy putt, a walk-off putt from, like, I was trying to tell my wife because she hadn't seen it. She was upstairs. I'm like, it's like from here to the, and I was pointing to like a shed we have out in the yard. I'm like, it's so far away to make a putt, to not only just make it, but to win a tournament, to win the expectations that were on you were so low, being like, I think he was like the 6th Canadian listed as far as top Canadian.
Jeez.
I think he was like 6-1 to be top Canadian. The fact that he took it down was awesome. And then it's just funny, like 5 minutes later, you can't even find the video. It's just a constant feed of Adam Hadwin getting tackled, which, as I said to producer Dan, you don't want to get tackled, cut your hair, don't wear a hoodie. Like you look like a fan. If you're wearing a golf shirt with a bunch of sponsors on it and you had a nice Titleist hat, and
Sure.
like I think it would have been a little different. And he straight up just looked like a tourist. So.
Well, they're waiting to get on a flight from, they need these guys to finish up. Like you had the, English Euro
the English
delegation.
contingent. Somebody made that joke, and I don't even, like you're saying, I don't think it was a joke. Someone's like, "Oh, we're supporting our guy." It's like, no, Lowry and them, they're waiting for him because they booked the same flight to get out to LA. They probably have their NetJet waiting, and it's like, fucking hurry up, Tommy.
Yeah,
like, they're probably like, God, thank God he hit one in the bleachers.
Yeah, it was great. I was excited for our friend Jeff Feinberg, who, roller coaster of emotions, because last Tuesday, as we came on, we had all the news just breaking in terms of the PIF, PGA merger and all that's going to be. And he turned into like Big J journalist, right? Like he's outside like the meeting and like popping up on interviews on the Golf Channel, but like he got to meet Tommy. Tommy's in the mix. Like I felt bad for him Sunday afternoon, where he's having to like probably dance with this like my guy and like my country type of situation. And it was I thought it was a fantastic golf tournament. Sports are awesome, and when that putt fell, it was really cool. I took some live Tommy. It was a great week for me, but I took some live Tommy, so even that was like, man, I'm comfortable losing like that, because that was a pretty awesome moment.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this one's going to be awesome too. I mean, we were talking before, and you've probably heard a lot about it at this point. I've tried to consume any iteration of flyover, somewhat famous people playing this course. Not too much of the 2020 or 2017 Walker Cup that you can watch.
Let's just touch on that real quick then. Is that almost useless or completely useless?
Completely useless, in my opinion.
I think it is completely useless. Obviously, Mayo made a good joke about like, trying to take stats from the last time they played a U.S. Open here. It was like 1926 or something. Like, he's making a funny joke, but there is some truth in the hyperbole that even some of these courses, like we can't take that much away from stuff that gets played at some of these courses 5 years ago when they go through major redesigns. The fact is we haven't had a real tournament here in many, many years. Match play is not stroke play, obviously.
Big point.
And then we'll always lean on this too. How they set a course up can drastically change things. And we'll always have the Workday Classic into the Memorial 2-week stretch to prove that, like, hey, I can make this course 15 strokes harder by just doing a few things with my lawnmower and my watering, and moving the pins, moving the tee boxes. They have a lot of options. So really hard to guess, but there's been a lot of people who've been, that are within the golf Twitter space, whether it's reporters or just people out on the West Coast who've made their way out on the course, have been doing God's work, tweeting about how some guys are playing the holes, how some of the things are looking. So I think it's starting to come into view a little here how we think LACC is going to play this week. And I'd like to hear, I don't know what's the best stuff that you like. Well, it's fried egg for sure. Like the fried egg flyover for sure. What's the second best thing you saw as far as helping you actually handicap this? And like, what was it?
Yeah, so the Golf Digest stuff is also very good. Not very different than the fried egg stuff, but believe it or not, the guys from No Laying Up played earlier in the year and did their best to like try to give you sights in thoughts, not just of like their ball, but like kind of how this will play, and giving you like the options that these guys are going to have off the tee. Because that's actually part of this, the appeal of this course too, is like you said, you can do so many things with this course. You know, I think like we're playing par 70, the scorecard's telling you 7,400 and change, but they can mess with all sorts of things in terms of, distance and tee boxes and, pin placements that can change all of that. So I thought that was a really cool visual at the ground level to see actually people playing. So getting a sense of the slope in the fairways, the elevation changes, the greens with the false fronts, a lot of like back to front, undulation on the greens. So I thought that was worthwhile, to be honest, of a watch. Sometimes I think some of that could be a little bit noisy in nonsense. And again, what they could do with the rough, but even you saw that too, the apron around the green, it looks reminiscent. And it was a media day, right? They did it for the media to come out and try to give the best representation of what they expect kind of a baseline look is going to be when everyone comes back here in June. So I think that that's worth your time to watch as well. Yeah, so we're hearing a lot about like, hey, it's a very different US Open, because US Open is right, long, narrow, thick rough. This place probably more reminiscent of Augusta, where fairways are really wide. But man, you get a sense of it too. It's just a lot of slope. Not only the elevation changes, but like, yeah, you could be in the fairway, but the way that the fairway is sloping left to right, like if you were down into like the gully part of the fairway, like you don't want to be there. That's a bad angle in a lot of holes. So theoretically, you could have high fairway success rates, but that's not necessarily where you want to be with your second shot. So we get some of the notes here too. Not hosting an event in a very long time. The elevation changes, you get it right away. On the very first tee, like wide sloping fairways. I don't know what a camber is, so I definitely don't know what a reverse camber is. But it sounds problematic, Andy. I don't know if you have any thoughts there, but yeah, the thick Bermuda rough is mostly around the aprons of the green more so than anything in landing spots for tees.
It just means tilt. I was going to say, I've heard it used by my buddies who do like auto sports stuff. You hear about it, like how they set up the wheels of a car because it's going around a track, left the whole time. They don't put the wheels on a NASCAR car the same way you put it on your, Honda Civic. So it just does mean some weird slope. The fairways, sloping in the wrong way as far as how you want it to hit. Like you said, it's going to end up in some gullies, and not only just like, hey, this is a bad angle into the green. This is a blind shot when it shouldn't be, because I ended up in a low spot. Like you're going to be, hey, I'm hitting into a green I can't see because I ended up in, obviously I think we've reached the jump the shark point at the drop the ball into the rough videos. Those were fun like 5 years ago when it was like new. I am enjoying the drop the ball on the fairway and watch it roll 60 yards across the fairway.
Yeah.
Because that's unique. You don't see that a lot. The really heavy slope on some of these fairways, like I would just quit. Like if I was playing this, I would pick my ball up and I'd put it closer to the green where I could actually hit it. It's like, I'm not hitting. I'm not paying
$3 bills to hit it into the
woods. I just paid like $350 plus cart plus tip. The 6-pack I bought was $39. Like I'm not. Oh, fuck, that's probably cheap. I'm not going to hit from down here because I'm not going to find the ball. I'm never going to see where it landed, which part of the rough it was in. So these guys are going to have some struggles. That said, there is some scoring I think that can happen here. There's plenty of scoreable holes. This is like definitely a course you have to manage, because there's going to be a lot of spots like that where like, hey, I bleeped this hole up. I'm done. Like I'm scrambling from the fairway essentially. I'm in a bad spot and I know it. Like birdie is gone. That's not happening. I'm in the middle of a fairway and I'm scrambling at this point, and I'll just have to score on the next hole. Like there's going to be some places where people just have to know you're out of position, even though you found the short grass, which I guess you can be out of position and in the rough. So it could always be worse. But yeah, there's definitely going to be some holes where people are going to have to play pretty smart. And yeah, to the people in the chat, hey, Johnny C, and then Sam C, a lot of C's. If you are watching live, do hit that thumbs up. We ask if you enjoy the content.
Well, guys, Sam,
if you're joining along, if you have questions, obviously pop them into the chat. But yeah, do hit the thumbs up. That helps the channel out. Talk about the length and the scoring real quick.
So there's a bunch of unique holes, and actually Ron made some notes too, like where it's like, hey, time is a human construct. Par is very much a human construct this week. There's some, like, we start out the gate, the first hole, and we're not going to go through all the holes, but like it's a par 5. You got to take advantage of it. It's basically a 4.5. Number 2, it's a par 4. It's basically a 4.5. It's going to play very, very difficult. It's a unique layout. It's par 70. We have 5 par 3s. We can get to those in a minute. And 3 par 5s. 2 of the par 5s are reachable. There's a massive stretch, like 16, 17, 18 are all big boy par 4s. All 500 plus for the most part is what we're expecting. It's going to be a really difficult stretch to finish with. The par 3s are very interesting because you're going to have a hole that could play anywhere between 124 yards to like 77 yards, depending on where they stick that pin. It's going to be very interesting. If that pin is on the front, it is a very, very, very narrow landing space. That's not a full club for any of these guys. But then you have 3 or 2 of these bad boys that are pushing 300 yards. One is almost like designed to, like, you're going to see guys literally laying up because you can't run it up there either. It's surrounded by bunkers and it's surrounded by the rough. So it's going to play like 290 and you're going to have to land it on there if you want to have any sort of putt.
That tweet I sent when I got out last Friday, that executive course, it wasn't like a true par 3 course.
Yeah, those are
par
fun.
29s. So there was 2 par 4s on it, but one of the par 4s was 290. Just like, and I remember I was like jacked. I'm like, oh, I have an eagle chip here.
Yeah,
like, let's go. Didn't land on the green. I hit the ground really hard with my club. But yeah, it's wild to think of like a par 3 that long. And like you said, it's not like, hey, it's a par 3, it's downhill. There's like a false front that you can just run up if you end up pounding at like 255. Like just not a thing. Oh, I gotta fly in here. Oh, it's gonna drive me up a wall. Yeah, there's a bit of a weirdness to the distinction between some of those. Like you said, 16, 17, 18, you're averaging like 515 for these par 4s, coming right after a par 3 where, yeah, if they play it really short, guy's not even taking full swings at this. Before that, you have a massive par 5 that probably is similar to the, like you said with hole 2, it's like, well, this is a par 5, but if you're not reaching it in 2, it's going to be tougher to score on that one as well. And I don't know who's reaching that in 2, honestly, depending on how things go with the pin placement and, how long they actually play some of these. But at the same time, like, there's a couple of short par 4s in the back.
And the 6th, I want a camera on the 6th. I want to see how these guys take on the 6th because the 6 is going to be very unique. It can play shorter. It's a par 4. It's going to play some days, I think, shorter than the 290-yard par 3. It's a blind drivable. You just looking in the card, you're like, oh, I'm going to drive it, or going to be able to go for the green. You can't see the green. There's a big tree in your way. And then the fairway sprays out to the left. So it's kind of counterintuitive off the tee. Like the hole's there. Why do I want to hit it that way? But you also can't run it up there either because it's going to the same thing. You have the apron of really thick, chewed rough around it and bunkers all around it. So how guys decide to play is going to be really interesting because even if you're in the layup, guys don't want to be there necessarily because that's like a half wedge too. It's like a little, they don't love necessarily those little like elevated 40-yard uphill chips. It's a very hard shot to be able to control and spin correctly and not spin it back off. So yeah, it's going to be awesome to watch. I think we're going to have some really, really exciting golf to watch this weekend. And a lot of probably swings on the scoreboard because of the nature of the course.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some really tough holes, but like we said, it's going to be weird. I think there's going to be a lot of guys that go out and shoot like 69 with like 5 birdies.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be some holes where no matter how good these guys are, it's so hard to stay out of trouble out of some of these, just based off the way the fairways slope, the way the blind second shots, the blind first shots, and just overall the difficulty around the green. I think there's going to be, but yeah, you'll have to, the other one too being, like you said, 6, 8, and 9, like heading into that stretch when you go 6, 8, 9, 10, kind of 10, 12. Like kind of your middle of the round, you better be hitting your stride, because there's like 6 holes in the middle that have opportunities to score.
Sure.
And if you're duffing up the middle of your round, you're not gonna. It's like, oh, good, I missed a bunch of birdie putts. Now I'm heading into the final stretch where I got to hit it. They're combined like 1,600 yards for 3 par 4s to close this out with. So definitely need to see some scoring. Kind of something to think about if you're live betting. Just know that the middle of especially, and know where guys are starting, but if you're starting on one, that middle section kind of that is, I think, kind of the opportunities to score, whereas later in the round it's going to be tougher to find some birdies on those last 3 holes. Maybe something to look at if you're playing around with some of these first round leader bets, especially live. I know people like to do that shit live, which is dangerous with the way those get chalked up until this point. So
yeah, and the other thing that's going to be interesting too is right now I think it's soft, but I think it's going to be bouncy. You're going to see maybe even some shots that these guys might get frustrated because you might have landed on the right side of the fairway, but like if you kind of land on the edge of whatever that like spine where it breaks, you could see some balls like trampoline style here, closer to the weekend. Especially, I think this is going to play fairly firm and fast, especially if you see some guys go low early on Thursday or Friday. This course is going to get some teeth on the weekend. I just don't want a US Open that blows up.
No, I do think you'll see more scoring on Thursday than you do on like Saturday, Sunday.
Agreed.
Because it has been softer. It's been wetter. The course is a little more receptive now, but I think it gets harder as the week goes on, because it either starts hard and stays there, or it gets harder. Like you said, it's not going to be like, hey, yeah, we'd love a guy to win this at 15 under. That's just not the US Open.
No, they do not want that.
I'm almost looking forward to a couple of guys really playing some good rounds despite the conditions, having somebody spike like a 63 or something, because then they're just going to crank it to 11 for like Friday and Saturday. Like, all right, about enough of this. The weekend's going to be ridiculous. Like, oh yeah, we put the pin placement in the fringe. Sorry about that. Like we forgot to water the last 3 days. So it should be fun, but yeah, I do think you're correct on that. And that's kind of what I'm looking for, especially with some like prize pick stuff.
Yeah.
I do think birdies or betters are set a little low coming into you just got to pick the right guys that can manage their expectations and tempers on a course like this. But I think there's some advantages to round 1, and then you can probably come back and play the unders on birdies or better on round 2 or 3. So something to look for. And I guess skill set wise, what are you looking for in your perfect golfer? Just Scotty with Denny's putter.
Oh God, can you imagine? I mean, he'd win by
10.
Yeah, he'd win by 10 strokes. Yeah, I mean, similar to, again, I'm not making a ton of corollaries between Oakdale Country Club in Toronto and LACC, but when we have new courses that we don't see a lot, and I think this actually kind of just coincides with how we should approach majors in general, is that you stay with the stickiest stats, things that are going to be more sustainable over a long period of time, high level, tee to green, the things that are more predictive than anything else, no matter where we go. I think you're going to see a large distribution of approach shots from 175 plus, regardless. I think you will see that maybe even more based off of what we're seeing with some of the early, recordings, as you mentioned, the people that are out there yesterday. We're seeing a little bit of clubbing down, guys really trying to be cognizant that they can land in the specific part of the fairway that you give yourself the best look. So I think we'll see some longer approaches. Around the green is going to matter, but this is an interesting conversation. I think we've touched on it before, and I maybe think circle back because we have these pretty thick aprons, and when you're going to have around the green be really challenging, and then also false fronts where it's going to have the shaved runoffs and some spots where guys might be off the green 30 feet and could be looking at a Texas wedge situation. When the around the green stuff is difficult, do you lean more on guys that are very good at it? Or is it like, hey, it's going to be difficult for everybody? And it is, out of all the strokes gain metrics, probably the least sticky. How do you approach the perception of difficult around the green?
Yeah, it's nice if somebody has been good at it historically, and I think Ron, maybe even in his article, pointed to using, maybe a deeper split, not just looking at around the green, but looking at around the green on difficult scoring courses, looking at around the green on courses where around the green has been tougher, generally scrambling where around the green stats have been tougher it's been tougher for good golfers to do well. So I do think it brings everyone back to the pack a little, but it's still, I'm not going to discount guys who are good at it. Guys who've been great at chipping out of the rough, sand saves, everything like that, because you're going to miss a bunch of these. If you, like you said, I think you just kind of nailed it there. What happens when you club down? You hit a longer iron. When you hit a longer iron, what happens? You miss more greens. You miss more greens, you can be playing a lot of around the green shit. You're gonna struggle a lot. I think we're gonna see guys with spike. Let's say they're a 60% fairway guy and a 70% greens guy. Those are gonna flip. You're gonna hit more fairways and miss more greens here. So you are going to end up with a lot of around the green. So I had trouble down weighting it. I know that argument. I understand it, and I get it, and it does make sense. It's just I struggle for it here, where so many guys are going to have so many more shots. I think the best place to downweight is just everyone's going to hit the greens here, because the greens are the size of Massachusetts. Maybe last week a little, or places with large greens. This is just, and it's not so much the green size here, it's just the difficulty of the approach shots that we're going to be seeing here. So yeah, I kept it pretty high, and it's tough to kind of take some of the comps, because this is not going to be similar to some of the other courses that we have some of these guys hitting around the green and playing well with it. You do have to look at tough scoring courses. You do have to look with places with taller rough, maybe even just majors. So it was a tough decision, kind of picking out some of the stats when I made my course fit model this morning.
That's another.
I made it last night. And then I had some thoughts in my dreams and changed a few things this morning.
You make another good prize picks call out there too, because often that's actually one of the markets I like to go into as well, is fairways. Either the fairways or greens, depending if we have an edge historically. Memorial was really nice for that, where you can take advantage of those greens are really hard to hit. So yeah, maybe fairways are a little bit a chance to go over, and then maybe greens and reg would be a spot that you could look to go under into. So yeah, good call out there. Distance is interesting, because it's a long course. There's going to be some really long holes, but because of how I anticipate it playing with some of the run out, talking about it being so firm and fast, it matters, and it's historically mattered in a pretty massive way in U.S. Opens. So I think it matters, but I also think it matters more in this spot where it's approach, right? You'd rather have a higher lofted club into these greens than how it impacts your driving distance off the tee. So I would say it matters, but not in the typical way where I'm thinking about, this guy bombs it off the tee. You think that for the most part that trickles down the bag. If you're long off the tee, you probably hit everything a little bit longer than the average tour pro. So distance, yes, but not how I would typically. I just don't think we're going to have a Bryson situation at Winged Foot where you're able to bomb and gouge this place. It's also not set up that way. So it's going to be very unique in that way. So distance, yes, but not distance in the same way. So it's not a way to.
I stayed away from distance and accuracy.
Okay.
I know usually it's hey, one or the other.
Sure.
I just want someone who's got good general off the tee numbers on difficult scoring courses, because a course can be difficult to score on for a lot of reasons. But I think, depending what the reason is, the course is very long. The course has very narrow fairways. The weather was just bad that day. When you start looking at just a split of just difficult scoring conditions, there's a million different reasons, but a lot of them do involve you clubbing down and trying to play smart golf. What do you do when the weather gets bad? You got to play smarter golf. You got to play different, positioning. So the guys who have done well and just off the tee strokes gained in tough conditions in general, I think are guys who can play smart golf at this kind of course.
Yeah.
So that was a tough one too. It's man, how do we jive this, because it's tough for a weird reason.
Yeah, that's a really good call out and a good way to, I think, summarize it. All the guys on my card, a lot of the guys that I'm considering for other bets, are all elite drivers of the golf ball. They're whether it's their total driving ranking, as you mentioned, strokes gained off the tee, plus distance. I think it matters. So that's something that I'm weighing quite a bit here. You're gonna have to scramble. So like however you want to make that work, whether it's scrambling, lag putting is something that Ron thinks is going to matter. That's actually, I think pretty interesting this week as well. So yeah, it's any other course notes we want to get to? We want to start to get into, because I'm flying blind. I don't know who you have. I don't know who you bet. And I have one that I haven't bet that's in the notes for today. It's in my article that's up live on the site. I made my article free. Let's give people a little bit of taste of the goods, because you want to come over and get a subscription. Month sub at BetSports Golf is $19.99. You get everything on the site, all the tools. You can build a model, mess around with all the modeling stuff that Ron does. You can get his sheet. He shares it in our Discord. You can manipulate that data any way you want. Get all the picks that we push out throughout the week, live stuff, round by round stuff, all that. $19.99 for a month. It's going to take you through, I believe, the Open Championship, or really close to it too. So check that out, betsportsgolf.com. You can get links here in the show notes. But I don't know. I haven't seen Andy's not put his picks in the Discord yet, so I do not know where Andy is. So I'm flying blind and very, very interested to see how close you flew to the sun in terms of the top of this board, because we've basically seen two of the guys here so far win. We had Rom, take advantage of a bad start and putted lights out and played immaculate tee to green at Augusta. Brooks was dancing with him a little bit, and then Brooks closed the deal at the PGA. Going to be very, very interesting. So we've seen big dogs win this event. How are you approaching the top of the board?
Yeah, before that, I did want to mention too. Homa. We're betting, even though you are betting on Homa, we're betting against him a little. So
yeah,
you signed up for a new monthly sub this week. I'll put it all the way through Thursday and see if Homa's leading. I don't care. It's a long way from leading round one to winning the U.S. Open. So Homa wins the U.S. Open. We'll refund fully your monthly sub. So $20 gets you a monthly sub. If Homa wins, I was going to say write you a check. How old am I? We will just electronically return your money. I won't write you a check. Can you imagine me sending?
I'll drive to your home. I'll send a Raven with cash.
Yeah, I'll drive to your home and hand you a bag of nickels. But no, I thought about starting the top. I couldn't do it at the price. I think I might be an idiot because, let's talk about what Tiger was priced at when he was a god. There were tournaments where I don't remember how low you remember him getting, but
I remember a -110.
Yeah, it was. I was going to say even money.
Yep.
He was even money to win full field events.
And you'd have some like 2-to-1, 250s to win majors.
Yeah, and essentially Scotty is playing better than that right now, minus the putter.
That's correct.
So we might just come back to this in 5 days, and say, Jesus Christ, like 750 was a gift. Like he's using the same putter. There's reports from the course. The quote was somewhere around the lines of same putter, same results kind of thing, where it's still, he's not making the short stuff. You can't be giving up strokes at a major field like this. So I'm scared off, but even if he gets it, it doesn't have to be Denny. It doesn't have to be high-end golf. It has to be just like not even average, just slightly below average instead of being in the bottom 20%. If he putts even a little bit, 750 is a gift. So I'll let you talk some Scotty first before we get to my guys.
Yeah, so like the last couple events have been really poor. But like on the season, he's like minus 0.11 strokes gain putting. So we've had some like positive putting for Scotty at times. So like, yeah, it's been really rough. And what he did at Memorial was really hard to watch. But as you mentioned, the Tiger piece, he is just tee to green right now. So far better than everyone else, which is really remarkable because I think we do have a case where we have a big three in this tournament. Rory's playing some decent golf. You can make a case for big four. Like the top 10 in the world are really, really good. He is so much better than the rest of them right now, tee to green. And that's the stuff that matters. So you look here over the past 3 months, he's gaining 3.47 strokes per round on the field, tee to green. And Scotty doesn't play in some of the crap events. So he's playing in the fields against the best guys in the world. Well, same time frame, he is almost a stroke and a half above the guys that are closest to him. Cantley 2.15, John Rahm 2.14. They are obviously better putters, but still strokes gained total. Scotty is ahead of these guys. So like it's remarkable what's happening. All the things we're talking about that mattered here this week: total driving, distance, some lag putting stuff, some of the like strokes gained, magic bean stuff around the green. Like Scotty has like some of that Spieth stuff. But he's way better and more consistent tee to green. So again, like he closed better than we thought at the Masters, getting off to a rocky start there a little bit. Did the same thing at the PGA where he, gained some strokes putting down the stretch on the weekend and got himself in the mix. He was just too far behind. I'm with 750. I think is just, it's not a spot that we like to be, but I think in major championship golf, we need to consider it more. We've seen it early this season. Top of the board is taking it home. And yeah, Scotty at 750, I took advantage of some bonus bets. I took advantage of some odds boosts. So, I took, had a big old free bet I put down on it, basically almost matching a unit size. I had a 50% odd boost on FanDuel. Thank you, FanDuel. Very kind this week with some stuff. So like I have a pretty sizable position on Scotty this week and went a little bit lighter towards the midsection because I think this is the right play.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just couldn't do it. I don't know.
I get it. It's expensive.
It is expensive. I was going to say it goes against my outright betting philosophy as I've hit one all year. So good job, Andy. I took it easy this week because I do want to get a little heavier into the positional stuff. I think there's some advantage to be had there. Although a lot of positional stuff, and we didn't mention this yet, majors make their own rules, guys. Top 60 plus ties.
Yep.
So when you are looking at miss cuts or top 40, 30, 20, matchups, anything like that, realize like making the cut here is pretty bleeping difficult. It's the antithesis of Augusta where it's hard to miss the cut. This is tough. It's a full field, but only 60 plus ties. So,
but it balances a little bit because it is a full field, it is 156. You have about 25, 30 guys that congratulations. It's really awesome. You qualified for a US Open. If you see 2 or 3 of those
Sergio.
Guys make the cut, Sergio.
Yeah. Honestly, at this point, it's career, like put Sergio to make the cut.
Yeah, I think he's like 250 in the outright market. So catching strays. But you're right. It's not the 90-man field with the Sandy Lyles and Larry Mizes of the world at Augusta, but it is. We do have the bottom of it. It's closer to maybe like a 130, like an invitational, similar to what maybe we saw at Memorial. So good point.
There is a. Some of those guys are going to play better. Got Sergio's like minus 108 to make the cut.
Yeah, but is it a two-way market? Because I hate that. It's so frustrating.
No, I'm looking. It's minus 126 to miss the cut at FanDuel. That is tempting. I don't think he's playing very good golf. Like you said, there's still a lot of really good. Despite there being a bunch of guys who qualified and probably don't have a snowball's chance in hell at winning, maybe not even making the cut. But boy. There's still a lot of good golfers here. So something to think about. I think I will be looking at some miss the cut prices at this juncture. And then kind of off the top, I talked about positional stuff. I'm going to bet some positional stuff. And I only did this really because I was just kind of doing some price comparison. And when you look at the legal books, this is a minus 165 and a minus 190 at the 2 legal books that get mentioned the most. And I pull up Bet Online and it's mine. And I get it. We chop on ties, but so do FanDuel and DraftKings. Mm-hmm. So this is an apples to apples comparison, but like, I don't know if I can bet him at the current prices. It's been very depressed based on his win and his performance at Augusta. And it's hard to really make, good comparisons between him and the rest of the field because he doesn't play the other tour events. And it's really hard to say like, well, he played really well, hungover in, God, where was it? Was that Tulsa? No, Tulsa was before. Where did Brooks go after his win and have to play like a team of? It might have been Tulsa.
Yeah, no,
it was a bad event despite that. And some people steamed the ever living shit out of Cam Smith over him in a matchup at plus money.
Yeah,
but like I said, harder to quantify the edges with the live guys. But man, it's just clicking. The big fade Brooks things was like, well, he's mentally not there. he's not playing good golf because of it, and we can see it. It's right in front of our eyes. Whereas, like, I mean, it's right back to where he was when he was at the top, winning a couple majors a year and just absolutely jacking it up for the majors. He's at the same spot he was a couple years ago right now, and for top 20 to be minus 120 felt a little. I do think they price that correctly at like FanDuel or DraftKings where it was minus 190. So I think anything under minus 140 I thought was a pretty decent price. As much as I fucking hate playing minus money on a positional grouping like this, because you can lose money when he is in a 6-way tie for like 18th or something. That would lose money for sure. But it's kind of just my no-brainer one. And also I did play a little top 10 at plus 150 or better. That's another one where to shop around, because FanDuel DraftKings is like plus 120, whereas like I go to Bet Online, it's plus 165. So try to find the best price you can there. Shop around. If you guys have offshores, if you have locals, if you have a bookie who doesn't offer that market, and then you can just show them a screenshot from Bet Online and be like, would you give me this price? I know some locals like that, like, find me a screenshot and then I'll give you that price. You send them an old screenshot, wait for it to steam up. So Live DC, thank you there, John Mulligan. I forgot it was the District of Columbia tournament. And that was the other thing too. He looked like shit. And then the hangover wore off. Yeah. And it's like, oh man, if this was again, Greg messed that up. But if that was a 4-round tournament, he might have won it. So he just kept getting better as the hangover wore off.
He's a terrifying fade.
Real quick, because we're on the top of the board, and this is a decent question I've thought about a little. I want to hear your percentage. What percentage chance Rahm was headed to Live? The rumors of that have been unsubstantiated, but kind of check out. What do you give it?
I think it's probably 50-50. I do think that, I think when you look back at some of the conversations and quotes from Rahm in the last couple months, right, where Rory's kind of back down and Rahm's been talking about like, you really want to play with Sergio in the Ryder Cup, and I hate that politics have been involved and that's not going to happen. And like, I don't know. He was also very adamant early on around like, I'm a legacy guy. I want to chase these big events. I want to play at Torrey Pines, and I want to get green jackets. So we cough. So I do think that was part of his thing. I think he really did want that stuff. Coughing again.
Need to bring this guy a glass of water.
Yeah, I know. Coffee. I just have coffee. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I also just think maybe if he were close to going, I do think that it was going to be because he maybe had some inside knowledge that this was about to fold. So maybe he was like, "Hey, can I get the bag real quick?"
Yeah, I haven't heard this one yet. That's the best theory. He's like, I wonder if I can go get my $300 million.
Yeah,
probably more than that.
For Rahm, I would think more than that.
$500 million. And then like 2 minutes later, I'm like, oh, I'm back in the PGA.
Yeah, oops.
That would have been such a hilarious move. But also at the same time, too, like he's won another major. I'm not sure how much he really wants to play all the other events. Like if you told some of these guys who are true, like I'm a legacy guy, hey, you can play all 4 majors still and go play Live and get the bag, I think a lot of them would be like, if you can guarantee me I can still play all 4 majors, fuck it. Why would I go grind it out at like Pebble or some of these other places and play these freaking pro-ams like that? I guess you got to go play the pro-am with like the head of the Saudi family on Tuesdays, but it's still, I'm with you. I think it's 50-50. I think there's probably some merit to that rumor.
Yeah. Glad we'll never have to find out. Interesting to see what still comes of all that. But it's good that it's behind us, at least for this week, and we can focus on some good golf and
Canada my first bet, which I hate, but it was strictly I had to lie heavily on form still. And boy, it just doesn't feel like there's a guy who's going to be like, oh, I'm going to win my first major here. Like after, but throw trends out because it's a major week. But there are some trends behind. You can't just be a guy who hasn't played well in big events and then suddenly win the US Open. So playing decent in a big event, I think is going to give you a bump. Winning an actual event on tour gives you a bump. and I bet Victor Hovland. Again, it's just it's 1850. I think there's some 20s out there too, but it's the same thing for the whole time on tour. Like, he's very good, so good.
Awesome.
Just sometimes chips like me. And a friend of the program and somebody you've talked with a few times, Travis Fulton, had a good video of him the other day where he was moving his head towards the target when he was chipping and kind of bringing his whole body towards it and getting a lot better contact that way. Like, he's really good, if nothing else. And he's a very smart guy around golfing and golf betting and everything else and instruction. If nothing else, follow Fulton for those clips and those videos where he's breaking down what guys are doing to change their swing. I thought it was really cool to see, Victor actually make a change, because sometimes guys is like, oh, he's getting better at this, I don't know how. And then you realize, like, oh no, he wasn't. It was just a fluky 2 weeks. When you actually see someone make a change in their mechanics with a problem area like that, and it starts to improve a little, that's heartening. And yeah, he's made some small changes in that, and he's top 10 in strokes gained here in a field of everyone in everything except for obviously around the green short game. And that is getting a lot closer. If you go to a smaller sample, maybe the last 12 or 18 rounds I looked at, it's like, man, he's like 40th. It's not a massive drag on him anymore. So if he's playing halfway decent around the green here, he's absolutely in the mix. So 1850, the one I hated to bet, but I did anyway.
Travis's Instagram is a fantastic follow. He's got a lot of instructional stuff on IG as well. So yeah, highly recommend Travis Fulton. Yeah, lots of great content from our friend there. I think this is a fantastic bet, Andy. I liked it so much that I'm waiting to make it, but it's a play for me.
Sure.
1,800 on DraftKings. I can't get down on DraftKings the full stake that I want, so I'm waiting for maybe Rivers, like an enhanced number or something like that. There's 17 on FanDuel, other than the DraftKings number. So yeah, this is available out there for people that are watching live. But Rivers, let's go. Give us some enhanced stuff. I'm thinking we'll probably get like a 19 or maybe a 20 on Victor. But yeah, so I think you made a great point, right? So the form is fantastic. He's been awesome. We finally see him in a swing season event get over the hump, right? We've been seeing the Mayakoba stuff and the Euro World Challenge. And he finally seals the deal at the Memorial, wins a big boy golf tournament against the elites. But the recent form in majors has been awesome.
That's why I said, like, the fact that he's done good in majors this year. If he hadn't been semi-competitive the last two, I don't think I could have bet this.
I mean, if he didn't have the bunker on 16 at the PGA where he, just drilled it in the side, those last two golf holes are quite different in terms of how Brooks has to play it there. So, and what's really interesting, as to your point on the around the green stuff, he's played in 11 majors where we've had shot link data. He's gained strokes around the green in 9 of those 11. So again, that's a small, weird sample size, but he's actually been positive in the only thing that we think that he's weak in major golf. So tee to green, he's immaculate. Long irons, total driving. He's long in straight off the tee. Yeah, he's a great play. I didn't think I'd come short of 20 again since I took a shot on Scheffler. But the more I looked into Victor, I just think we could be in a spot where floodgates are opening after what happened in Memorial. So I'm with you.
Especially in this range. Fuck, I'm not going to bet Xander. I'm not going to bet, I thought I might bet Cantlay. Now, the more I look at it, it's not at that price. Cantlay might be a live ad because I like him more, as we kind of alluded to earlier in the episode. I like him more as the course gets harder.
Yeah.
I think Cantlay is somebody I'm looking at pocket. And Sam C, look at that. Got him a month ago at 3,200. Nice job there. Let's talk about our fade play for the week, because you got him at a extended price. I want to hear your opinion on his current pricing as well.
Yeah. So Max Homa, as we mentioned, is our promo. If Max wins, we will refund your new monthly sub. So take advantage of that. You got a little 2.5 day window here to take advantage. As most people have probably heard at this point, breaking news: Max holds the course record at LA Country Club, playing in his backyard. We know Max has a long history of playing really well in California. He's won 4 of his last 8 starts in the Golden State, which is a pretty good track record. I believe 4 of his 6 wins overall have also been in California here. And look, I know that the form hasn't been awesome as of late, but like he has 2 top 10s in his last 3 starts. So not bad. Of course, the one in the middle there is the PGA Championship, which again, that's the narrative around Max. And look, it's going to be a really hard sell for pro Max guys like myself to continue to take this stand against his history in major golf tournaments to say he's a different player than he used to be. Well, yeah, but now we're still not getting to a spot where he's, really competing on the weekend in majors. So if he can't do it here, where he seems to have a slight leg up on the field in terms of a little bit of familiarity, and again, it's going to be playing differently and the things that the USGA can make it do compared to, 2013 when he was, just a kid, is very different. So I just think that he's a better golfer than some of the guys around him. And he's just almost a blind bet for me north of 30 most times. So yeah, I took advantage of it when he was in the middle of his heater at Torrey Pines. It got down to even 16 on Caesars. We saw mostly 20s, and we've seen it kind of balloon back up to 30. So those are still out there now at most spots. So yeah, I like it. I mean, I think that he can compete here. He has the all-around game. I think all the things that you're going to need here, he still has in his bag. So yeah, I like Max. I hope we're wrong from a business standpoint. But yeah, I think that it's still a decent number and something I wouldn't mind betting into at 30.
Yeah. And if he sucks here, I will be absolutely looking for matchups to bet against him in going to St. Andrews.
We are
Royal Liverpool.
Yeah,
Royal Liverpool. I think St. Andrews is coming up again though. They don't have a big rotation. It feels like they go back to the old faithfuls a few times.
Not a bad place to be.
Yeah, it's not like St. Andrews is a bad course. But yeah, it might be a spot where it's like, oh, this guy just really doesn't quite have it yet in majors. It might be getting to him a little mentally. Golf's a very mental game, and I might be looking to bet against him in matchups where I normally wouldn't have.
And you can make that case too. I would get that. Right, the pressure
and
that
he's still young. That's the thing. It's not like we need to be worried about this being some career-long thing. This happens to guys. It's just still in his early 30s. He's got time to figure this out, but it's starting to become a little worrisome from how well you see him play in other events. Speaking of guys I don't think I ever thought I'd really bet on in a major, I do remember strongly rooting against him in a major. He was in a final grouping with Francisco Molinari and somebody else. Trying to think who the other guy was. He doesn't play as much anymore, but
Eldrick, I think is his name.
Eldrick, do you remember how fucked up that was? The fans were cheering when they both went in the drink. Francisco and Fino went in the drink late. So I felt at that point I felt bad for them. But super fun. And yeah, Tony Fino, not somebody I thought I'd be excited about betting, but the number was awful big.
Yeah.
40 for the form, and I did some splits with tough scoring conditions. He was better than most. Speaking of Eldrick, or just iconic calls from golf. I love that one. So, ball striking top 10, even in a loaded field, which is kind of amazing coming from a guy that just how long ago? 2 years ago, we were like, this is just a guy who can't win any golf tournaments. Now we're betting on him to win a major. Total driving, pretty good. Like I said, I'm not so worried about some of that stuff, but just off the tee in general was good enough. And I think he has enough of everything with his first shots to stay out of trouble. We've seen that he's decent enough at some of his positional golf, and it's good enough on the long irons. He's top 10 approach player, good to great greens and regulation percentage. And again, I went to tough scoring conditions. I went to majors only. I went to places with longer courses, tougher scoring conditions, like I said. So he's kind of popping in all of the little different granular splits I'm doing, and 40-1 seems like a pretty big number. So, and this is fun. He's just such a freaking affable dude. Even if there were if I didn't have an outright and he were in a playoff against maybe anyone else on tour outside of somebody, you or Ron, but I suppose I'd be cheering for him. Just I want to see Tony win. So not a hard guy to root for. And like I said, the stats kind of sussed it out as well at 40.
Yeah. I like it. It's, the only thing we've seen recently, the slide compared to how he spiked was the putting. But I'm backing Scotty at 750. So you're going to get basically 5.5 X on Tony it's not a good reason to stay away from the
Yeah,
putt.
Dan's pointing out Victor, Homa, and Big Tony, if nothing else, were guys who are easy to root for outright.
Yeah, but I also think that's part of it too.
Where's our Varner the third outright?
Yeah, I'm down the board with some guys that I really like too. So like, I'm not handicapping based off of emotional intelligence and the guys that I like to root for.
No, it's just happening that way.
It happens though. I think it's sometimes a tiebreaker. Like that'd be a thing. Like, man, if modeling spit out Cantley at the top and like Scotty's right there, it's like I don't want to root for Cantley. I'd rather root for Scotty. And that's just, I think that sometimes that could be a part of it too. And maybe there's some of that in the market that you could pick up on. But I do think that that's human nature. I know that at least I do more so probably even than you have my guys and guys that I like to back, especially when the modeling statistically is close. So, yeah,
for sure. Speaking of my guys and guys who've won this year, another one where it's just like this price is probably too big for somebody who can putt when he gets there. I'm worried about scoring conditions and J-Day. Boy, I just hated pulling the trigger on every bet I made this week. Hopefully matchups go well because actually, when I hate betting on somebody, usually they do play well. But all the scoring metrics, big thing for me was, birdies are better when you have opportunities, avoiding the bogeys because it's like we said, it's a really decent mix of holes where you need to scramble from positions you wouldn't normally have to scramble from just to save par. And really, really taking advantage of the handful of opportunities you're going to get to score on some of these holes that are a little shorter, a little easier. And again, on a course where around the green and scrambling are important, he's a stud. Like his short game, obviously, I mean, it's the whole career short game, but his short game is electric. It's back to where I'm excited about him when he gets close. And if the long irons play well and they've played, decent enough, he should be a guy that's scoring here. So just need to have him avoid some of the blow up holes or getting in too much trouble with some of the 200-yard iron shots into the greens.
Yep. Another guy I'd like to see.
60-1 though, Jason Day. I found I was happy with that.
Yeah, this was hard for me because I don't have anything now until triple digits. So because I have 3 short of basically 30. So like that mid tier is loaded. Like you can really build up 6 guys in that like 40 to 80 range and feel like you have some real win equity here with guys that have either track records like you mentioned with Jason Day, Tony Finau. There's just a lot in there, so it seems like that's been more of your approach. I went kind of the other way.
I don't have a card or I don't have info for him yet. I haven't made this bet, but speaking of triple digits guys, I almost bet. Oh shit! Never mind. He's your next guy up. Okay, I'll let you do it. I have an X next to him under a. Hey, this is a really sexy top 20 pick for me.
Yeah, I don't know which one that producer Dan has for me next because I had 3 guys that are kind of bunched together.
Well, I'll let him bring it up and you'll know.
I think we are windy. Yeah, so Wyndham Clark. Wyndham Clark was available this weekend. FanDuel reshuffled on like Saturday, and they put him out at 120. Just an egregious number in my mind.
Really
insulting. He on FanDuel is plus 115 to T40, which again I think is probably one of the best numbers on the board. Again, T40, not a very large threshold to overcome. I'm worried less about chops into the 40s. So yeah, he's been awesome. I have over the past 36 rounds, 4th in the field in approach, 3rd in total strokes gains. Distance is good. Putting, he can be a little erratic off the tee, so that's probably his downfall this week. He needs to be a little bit more accurate, but he's coming off of obviously a great win a couple weeks ago at Quail Hollow. Again, great fields, holding off Xander and Rory and all the guys that kind of got in the mix there. This is kind of how he's built, long and difficult courses. And I really can make the case that he's somewhat to me like a 2023 Max Homa, whereas Max just made this ascension where he started competing more often, closed a little bit more often, and was gaining throughout the back. It just was kind of a different guy. And I think that's kind of where Wyndham Clark is now. I think you're seeing mostly like 80s in the outright market. So the 120 is gone. Subscribers in the Discord hopefully got to take advantage of that on the weekend. But yeah, I think he's up to 40, the T40 at plus 115 is just an absolutely fantastic spot. So love Wyndham Clark this week.
Yeah. No, kind of same thing. Like he just popped really hard in course
Yep.
fit. Obviously, form. When you win a tournament, your long-term, short-term form model is going to start to head up and to the right. You know, he was a guy that honestly popped in like the top 20 as far as course fit. And then just when I dug into some of the more granular stuff, some of the more, hey, looking at guys how they played majors over the last few years, how they played longer courses, how they played tougher scoring courses, the same three things I keep mentioning. I was worried that some of those guys that I said, like, hey, they have good form, hey, they have an okay course fit, they're going to drop down in this. And he didn't really drop down that far. So like 2.5 to 1 almost to top 20, like you said, plus money to top 40. I think those are very good bets. Something I almost placed. But let's hear your other big dogs here. Or big numbers.
Yeah, so another, I mean, again, like I feel like we're gonna win at the top of the board, but again, like Mito Pereira has, I don't know, he's been playing really, really good golf at Live. He's played 7 times. He's been in the top 6 in 4 of them. Like I know we have a hard time kind of quantifying finishing positions in Live, but I'd rather see you consistently inside the top 6 than kind of like middling and all over the map. Look, you know, we know what happened to the PGA last year, but like there's a reason that he was in the mix. He is a lead off the tee. He is long and straight. You know, like when you're running some modeling stuff, it might be a little bit noisy because you just don't have all the lip stuff or some of it's older. That really matters. You look, excuse me, Data Golf has that great stuff where you can grab approach ranges and strokes gains, which is kind of some new stuff. If you look, large sample, last 2 years, Pereira is 6th in this field in strokes gained approach from 150 to 200 yards from the fairway. He is also top 5 in strokes gained approach from the rough from 150 plus. So like fairway rough, he's still just really damn good with approach and he's long and straight off the tee. So again, this is another number where we can get plus money to T40, plus 125s are still out there to win it. Again, I don't think that Mito Pereira is winning here, but I think it's a really bad number in relation to the rest of the board. And it doesn't cost a lot to sprinkle on a 125. But again, the T40 at I think plus 120, 125 on FanDuel is a great look.
Yeah, for sure. And I will just say real quick, like you said, it's hard to judge how well a golfer's playing when we have live results.
For sure.
But when they've been consistently good, it means they're, you know, I think they are trying.
Yeah.
And they're playing well compared to some of the other guys. And we've seen like, well, shit. I mean, even at Augusta, how many guys were on the first page of the leaderboard for live? It's not like all those guys suck. You know, it's not all. God, who's
we had
the
a
guy,
T18
who's the guy who got like dead last like 5 times in a row? I can't think of his name.
Oh,
no.
Live. Oh, yeah. I don't know. Is it James Pilot or whatever?
C1? I can't think of his name right now.
Chase Captain?
James Piot? No,
Yeah.
It wasn't him. But no, regardless, like we've seen some live guys. It wasn't just Brooks. Like
Mito T18 to the PGA.
Yeah, Phil played well. Patrick Reed played well. There's a few other guys that played pretty well. And then, Mito played well too. So, Oh, God, I seen this last one. This is disgusting.
So it is, but
it's another number, though. Like,
it's a number's wrong. Egregious number for a guy who's won the U.S. Open in California before. Again, stretch a little bit. It fits. I'm definitely getting cute with fitting a narrative. But Gary Woodland was available at 175. I think that's a terrible number. Gary Woodland is definitely not for everyone. The putting is something that is really hard to stomach. But again, when you look at everything else, pull it out. He is perfect for really what we think matters here. Long and straight off the tee. One of the best on tour from 200 plus in terms of approach. Bent grass is his best putting surface. So while the putting is not great, this is a unique California layout where we have bent grass greens. And while I do think that his best is relative, we'd rather have him on his best than something that he struggles on. So again, finishing position market, plus 125, plus 140 to T40. These are really, really good numbers on some guys that I think are going to be in the mix. And Gary, despite the putting woes, has really been in the mix for a couple of months now. He just is consistently losing 1.5 strokes per round or something on the greens, which is really hard to kind of close that gap. But yeah, the plus number for the T40 again is probably the preferred play.
Yeah. I dig it. I didn't play any long shots. Like you said, a few of the guys I'm looking at for top 20 make the cut, maybe top 40 if I make it down to Iowa. But I did have one last one that I'd kind of check marked heavily along with Wyndham Clark. in Eric Cole. It's one where you don't have the sample, but man, we just saw him play some really good golf again. And it's a completely different kind of course, but if you start looking at form and you start looking at, everything I think that matters, and even at a smaller sample, some of the stuff that matters, like he is good around the green. He is good with the short game. And I think he's just going to start to ascend quicker here into a name that matters week in and week out. Like, wouldn't surprise me if this guy won one of the, we truly need a name for the we have the California tournaments. We have the Aloha swing there. We have the Florida swing, like the doldrums of like northern U.S. where you have like
John Deere All-Stars.
John Deere, Blaine, and Detroit.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he were to win one of those events, because right now, if you give me one of those fields, and I know, like Tony will be at 3M defending, and that's a pretty good golfer, and there's a few good names that make it to all those every time, but like he'd be the class at like John Deere right now, I think. So
yeah, John Deere card, I know what it is already. It's going to be
the shitty summer swing, the dead grass swing. Yeah, although they do a good job of watering, so it looks nice out there. But
it's going to be Eric Cole, Sam Stevens, and Austin Eckroat as my.
Oh God, that would be such a fire.
That's the John Deere card. I already know it. So.
Yeah, I'll play that at Detroit too. Like, you can just blindly cut this, and we'll blindly play those at 3M Detroit. I'd play them at Wyndham, honestly, as well. Yeah. That's not that great of an event, truthfully, compared to either. And Wyndham is a good course. It's a fun event. It's just where it's put in the calendar is such a tough spot for it. Just like we saw with the Honda, like, hey, guys might take the week off and prep for the tournaments that are going to, pay them $1 trillion over the next 3 weeks. So sorry, Wyndham.
Yeah, you only go to the Wyndham if you need to backdoor into the playoffs for the most part.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so that's it. Again, that's it. So, and he was another one too. Eric Cole's top 20 was 5-1. Which is a big fat number that I think is wrong.
Yeah, played great with 63 on Sunday at Canada to work his way into the top 5 again. So yeah, he's playing really good golf. We were able to get him. He was outright for me last week, and again another top 40 play at plus money. So yeah, these are guys that are playing good golf. Again, you want to be in the Discord, take advantage. $19.99. Again, if Max wins, you get that back, but you get all these finishing position bets. You'll get Andy and Ron's matchup stuff, all of their in-tournament bets as well. I typically am sitting out once it's live. I'll jump and sprinkle in a little bit of outrights here and there, but these guys are betting, a decent amount of matchups for every round. And I think it's, getting access to not just Ron's picks, but really Ron's data sheets that I think are the best in the business in tournaments for you to really make your own matchup plays. I think definitely can pay for itself real quick. For a U.S. Open week. And again, you'll get it for a month. And if Max wins, you get it back. So definitely worth it.
You get that first month free. So yeah, I will second that. Ron's data sheets. Every night he puts out a paywalled article only for members that has all of his stats and info that he's using for each round of matchups for 3 balls for DFS. He puts a lot of detailed work into that every day. So, just pre-tournament stuff in the Discord's great, but that stuff is gold as you're going through the tournament and you're doing showdown and things like that. So with that, let's call her a week. If you have any other questions, at Andy MSFW, at RY Noonan, at Betsports Golf. If you're in the Discord, hit us up in there, tag us. I'll catch you for the DFS show tomorrow with Ron and the gang. We'll catch you for office hours if you're a premium member in the Discord, and hit the thumbs up on the way out. Enjoy this week, and I'll catch you. Jesus, what is next week?
Next week is
Travelers.
Travelers.
What are we? Every major now is just having a great tournament right after it. So we'll catch you next week for
producer
the
Dan.
Travelers.
Boots on the ground, right? Boots on the ground for producer Dan.
I think he's going to visit. So
yeah,
we will see you.